out here on another windy day here in Des Moines, Iowa, and Andrew Yang will be speaking at this junior high school here. Hey, this is Daniel. So I'm at Franklin Junior High School here in Des Moines, Iowa, and Andrew Yang will be speaking here later today in an auditorium. See the pictures, and I will have more behind the scenes and hopefully some interviews with some volunteers, giving you all the details as they become available for me. I don't know. Hey, here we are in Iowa for another Andrew Yang event. Join me on the journey. Take care.
Because I get to have two amazing gentlemen come and talk to so many of you. Now the first gentleman who's going to come out and speak to you tonight is the guy that I'm always happy to be around in Iowa politics, because he's one of the only Democrats I know who's actually taller than me. But the nice thing is we both have the same beautiful haircut, and that's something that I really enjoy. You know, this is a man who decided that when he was up in the 4th District, and he took a look at what was going on there, and he decided, you know what, something's got to change. And by God, I'm not going to wait for somebody else to do it. I'm finally going to step up and do it. I'm going to make sure that I look at the type of change that people here need. I'm going to be the type of person who looks out for my community and says, you know what, the things that have been going on right now, that's not Iowa. And I'm going to try and make sure that I come out and show people what Iowans are really about. Well, unfortunately, this man didn't make it, but what really counts is that he was an inspiration to so many other Democrats. So many other people saw what J.D. Scholten did and got inspired to say, you know what, I think it's time that I stand up too and do something for my state that I love so very much.
I've been doing events with a lot of the different candidates to raise the awareness and to push the candidates on seeing what they can do with the EITC or other different ways to help fight poverty. And so it's been pretty successful so far, and it's been an honor to be working for Working Hero and really push this initiative. So with that, I would like to introduce Andrew Yang. Oh, sorry, he's over there.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Andrew Yang! Ladies and gentlemen, presidential candidate Andrew Yang! Hello, Illinois! It's so great to be here. I'm Andrew Yang, and I'm running for president of this junior high school, apparently. You got the feeling, like I didn't watch any see the signs. I was like, oh, Andrew Yang's the president. Welcome, it's a thrill to be here. You know, J.D. Scholten, I have to say, when I saw this, well, the sign's off now, but like the Working Hero sign, I was like, it's named after J.D. Scholten. Yeah. Am I right? Because that guy worked and worked.
And that's what, like, he's poised to do whatever he wants in Democratic politics right now, because everyone knows that J.D. Scholten is the real deal. He worked his way into contention against Steve King in an election that no one wanted to run. And the people in the district are now like, oh man, we should have chosen J.D. They like talk about buyer's remorse on that one. They're like, oh man, like now our district's like associated with like the ostracized Congress person who got kicked off all the committees. So now, it's true. So JD is like, he's too much of a man to be like, I told you guys. but we all know what happened there. And now JD, they're asking him to run for pretty much everything, like that seat again, Senate, like you name it. And so it's a thrill to be with JD going on stage. That guy is a worker. So I'm Andrew Yang. Most of you, raise your hand if you know a whole lot about me, because some of you definitely do. I can tell by what you're wearing. Some of you know a lot about me. Some of you know less, and it's great. I appreciate that people who are just here that want to find out more about one of the presidential candidates. I know that's something of an Iowa pastime that you just get to do. No, I'm not doing anything this Sunday night. I might as well go see the latest presidential candidate speak. See what's going on. It's like the cheapest form of entertainment. And you all deserve it. You all deserve it, really. So I just got asked the other day about what I thought of the current caucus system and the New Hampshire primary. And I said to them, if you change the system, whatever you change it to, people would have no idea what to do. That's right. It's like, well, the people in Iowa know what to do. You know what I mean? It's like, you can't replace decades of political culture and experience. Like, you would something else, like Nebraska did have no idea what to do. It's like no one else would have any idea what to do. So I love the caucus system. I think it's genius. I think it's very wise. I think there's a reason why it stood the test of time. And one of the main reasons I love being here with you all in Iowa is that you genuinely control the future of the country. And it's something that some of you appreciate, some of you take very, very seriously, like you honor it. But I have to say, like, the rest of the country does not realize just how, just what they're missing. Like the rest of the country doesn't realize that, that here in Iowa you can come see me speak and then actually think, like, wow, if I like what that person had to say, like, we can actually take that message to the rest of the country very quickly. Thank you. Hello. Hey. It's my favorite report from the Des Moines Register. Hey all, I think we have some questions. Thank you all, just want to say. Hello. Yeah. I'll answer from down here. Go on stage, see the camera. Oh, it's me, JD. All right, come on, JD. JD, where you at? Sharing this bad boy? All right.
Well, can I give one quick question? So, in Sioux City, where I live, there is, my local party is, Sioux City, is that what you said? There is, my local barista is a member of the Yang Gang. And we talk to up all the time, and I want to know, what is your version, and what do you think, talk to us about the Yang Gang and what it's all about.
Rule number one is you don't talk about Yang Gang. I'm kidding. Rule number one is you always talk about Yang Gang. So Yang Gang is just this name that bubbled up for people who support the campaign. It's just, as a journalist said, it's just fun to say. It's so fun to say that people have even written songs about it. It's like the Yang Gang anthem. But it bubbled up. Yeah, there's several songs actually. You can Google that. Well, what the Yang Gang means to me is just people that are embracing a vision of an economy that puts people first and that starts serving our goals and values instead of us all, frankly, like trying to turn ourselves into something that's useful to the marketplace. And so to me, the Yang Gang is just people who believe in humanity first.
do you take that freedom benefit? And I also like to know whether you could, I think most people want to work. You know, we had WPA, the CCC back in the Depression, so there's a lot of self-worth about working, and you combine that with your freedom benefit.
So, well, number one was how do you pay for it, and then number two was what do you think about jobs programs like they had in the Depression with the WPP and the Civilian Conservation Corps, like the CCC. So first, in terms of how you pay for it, I was talking about how Amazon paid zero in taxes, Netflix also paid zero in taxes, and so the big winners from artificial intelligence and the new economy are going to be this set of really big tech companies. And so the key is to try and get some of the money back from them and give it to you all. And then you'll spend it and you'll make the economy stronger. So if you look at what other countries have already done, every other advanced economy aside from ours already has a value-added tax, which would then give the American public a tiny slice of every Amazon sale, every Google search, every Facebook ad. And because our economy is up to 20 trillion plus, a value-added tax at even half the European level generates over 800 billion in new revenue. Now, this is the magic. If I give the money out to you all, the owners of this country, you spend it, and then your neighborhood economy grows, and then we get more tax revenue back. The trickle-up economy would actually work, unlike the trickle-down economy, which was total garbage and nonsense. They kind of do that. It's even an insulting name. Think about it, the trickle-down economy. Anyway, so you get 800 billion from the value-added tax, you get about 400 billion in new tax revenue from economic growth, and then you save hundreds of billions on incarceration, homelessness services, emergency health care, and other things that you get hundreds of billions on now, over $1 trillion in the aggregate. And then here's the magic. If we put this money into our hands, what happens is our kids get stronger, they get better nutrition, graduation rates go up, health improves, mental health improves, relationships improve, domestic violence goes down, hospital visits go down. And there was one study that showed that if you were just to alleviate poverty in this country, we would increase GDP by 700 billion just on the basis of having stronger and healthier and more mentally healthy and productive people. So that's the magic of the trickle-up economies. The money doesn't disappear. It's investing in us. It's not left, it's not right, it's forward. And so that's like this is going to be much less expensive. We're going to get a lot of the money back. And I used to run businesses, and when you have a good business, you all the time talk about investing in your people. You say, if I invest in my people, then my organization will get stronger and better. In the public space, we do the opposite. We're like, do not invest in those people at all if you can help it. And then we just end up paying at the back end when they wind up incarcerated or in our emergency room or in our services. When I was in New Hampshire, I'm very politician-y, when I was in New Hampshire a couple months ago, it was a corrections officer who said we should pay people to stay out of jail because we pay so much when they're in jail. So we have to start treating ourselves the way that good companies treat their people. We need to invest in ourselves, invest in our people.
My name is Mr. Lina. My co-workers, they are all strong Republicans. But when they saw you and me, I've always been a Democrat. But when they saw you on Ben Shapiro's show, Mr. Tucker Carlson's show, they want to convert to Democrats. I attended Mrs. Elizabeth Warren's rally, and when after the rally, we always make a line to get personal pictures. But I noticed when you are in Washington, D.C., you are, it was all about selfies. So, can we, the people here, can we, after this event, make a line and get possible
I'll go with the second first. I will wait here until every single person here has a selfie who wants one. I'm not going anywhere. That would not be the case if I was in a place like Michigan. I'm kidding. To the first point, I think that Democrats are doing ourselves a huge disservice by declaring certain venues off limits. I mean, how can you win an election if you're not showing up on places like Fox, which, like it or not, that's where millions of Americans get their news. Like, I mean, you know, it's like it or not, again, I mean, we have to win a national election. And so, like, the fact that DNC said that Fox couldn't host a debate, to me was very counterproductive. What's that? It's my fans. No. So the fact that I would go on Fox News, to me, it's just introducing myself to Americans. And if we can get more people like your friends to convert to Democrats, then that is how we win.
Let the penguin speak.
So if a penguin wants to grab the mic from Connor, I'm sure that the penguins can speak. Because again, I'm pro-penguin. Anyone who gets friends together and then dresses up and shows that level of commitment deserves a microphone. Am I right?
Thank you, Mr. Yang. Yeah. We just want to really put this up. Well, boy, are our arms tired. I'm Sid Bartlett. I'm in Boulder, Iowa. So in the past, when asked about climate change, you've said that people with financial struggles have the attitude that the penguins can wait in line. Yeah. Well, full disclosure, I'm not a penguin. I'm actually a person with financial struggles dressed as a penguin. Now, an extra $1,000 a month would be great. But in the meantime, we just found out last week that the second largest ever penguin colony collapsed due to ice melt. Last year, 150,000 people were displaced by the deadliest wildfire in California's history. And just this year, thousands of people were displaced right here in the Midwest due to catastrophic flooding. So we've done the math, and neither people nor penguins have the time to wait in line while the next president spends political capital on something as ambitious as a universal basic income. So our question to you, Mr. Yang, is, will you adjust your campaign and make avoiding climate catastrophe a priority, and so that both people and penguins can win?
Thank you for that. 100% yes. Climate change is an existential threat to our way of life, humans and penguins alike. And to the extent I ever suggested that I was not fully committed, then I conveyed the wrong message. Because to me, climate change, you know, I'm a parent, and I used to think we were shafting our grandkids. Now I think we're shafting ourselves and our kids. The last 4 years have been the 4 warmest years in recorded history. You don't need to be a genius or scientist to say climate change is picking up. And you saw the floods here in Iowa and the Midwest. You see the forest fires and the changes around the world. So to the extent that I've said anything about the fact that in a society where 78% of people are having trouble paying their bills and it's hard to galvanize anger on climate change, I still stand by that. If you go to someone and say, we need to address climate change, they can't pay their bills, then they might look up and say the penguins can wait in line, I can't pay my bills. And so what we have to do is we have to get the economic boot off of people's throats. And then they're gonna hopefully realize that we need to address climate change. And this is the big thing, is that I've lived this in my career, and I really want you all to live this too. We can control our capital flows much more easily than we control just about anything else. Like, if I'm elected president thanks to you all, this is not a far-out policy at all. Like, so bear with me. So I become president in 2021, and then you know the entire reaction is going to be like, the anonymous Asian man who wants to give everyone money just became president. How did that happen? And then all the Democrats and progressives will be super psyched, because they'll be like, oh, let's work with a new Democratic president and beat Donald Trump, and get money to children and families. And then Republicans and conservatives are going to look up and say, wait a minute, I kind of like this, because this is money that's going to go to rural areas and red states on the interior, and we do not need 80% of Congress to pass the dividend, we just need 51%. So let's say we get the dividend across the finish line, and then President Yang is going to be like, all right, now climate change, and then we're going to be able to accelerate progress towards climate change, because those people that earlier could not focus on anything but paying their bills now have their heads up. And then when you say climate change is an existential threat, they'll look at their children and say, yes, it is. So this is just my choice of tactics, but we are 100% aligned on where we need to go. I'm for carbon fee and dividend, I'm for rejoining the Paris Accords, I'm for clean air and water as actual measures. So my description of the people that have this food on their throats, that's not saying like, I think the penguins can wait. Like what I was saying is like, look, we have to be real. If Americans can't pay their bills, then like that's job number one for them and their families and their kids. But then we can move towards climate change as fast as possible. The brutal truth, though, is that America only accounts for 15% of global emissions. So even if we go whole hog and move towards renewables as fast as possible, we're probably only going to slow the rate of climate change incrementally. Even if we try and lead the world in the same direction. Unfortunately, the stuff that's making you very like depressed and like angry about the future of the global climate, it's happening. Like, you know, and even if we were to adopt very intelligent policies and get our share of global emissions down, the fact is a lot of the world is at a different point in their development cycle, and they're just going to keep on burning the cheapest forms of energy possible. So we should invest in trying to mitigate the worst effects of climate change, because it is probably coming our way regardless of what sort of policies we adopt. Thank you all over here. Energy and commitment and passion. Like, it's infectious. You should know I am with you. Like, I'm not running around as a climate change candidate, but I am running around as a science candidate. And if you believe in science, you know climate change is
Hi, glad to have you back in Iowa this week. Thinking about housing affordability, rising housing prices are hurting the pocketbooks of Americans across this country, notably in San Francisco and New York, but also in our state. We have a great shortage of housing that's affordable, especially for people who make about $25,000 or less a year. I know that you have some policies out on your website regarding zoning, so would just like to learn a little bit more about your proposals for making housing more affordable in our state and across the country.
Thanks, it's a phenomenal question. It's something that's going to do. So there are three things that are making Americans miserable right now, writ large, aside from climate change. It's housing, education, and healthcare. Because all three of those things have risen in cost at a much higher rate than our wages. Our wages have essentially been stagnant. Education's got 2.5 times more expensive. Healthcare has gotten a similar level. Housing not to the same extreme, but it's problematic. And the economic incentives around housing make it so that developers do not want to develop affordable housing. They want to try and gentrify things and make like the swankiest stuff that they can actually resell or rent, because that's where the money is. And so we have to provide real incentives to make affordable housing more available. But I would suggest that putting $1,000 a month into everyone's hands is a tremendous first step, because all of a sudden, then the rent payments that are dragging people down now would be less burdensome, and you'd also make it so that that income's portable, so you can go with it anywhere, you can pool it. So if the 6 penguins were to get together, you're all over 18, yes you are. So that'd be $6,000 a month, and among the 6 of them, they can afford a very nice habitat. So that the $1,000 a month would go much further here in Iowa than it would in other parts of the country. And I've gotten complaints in other high-cost areas, like, why $1,000 a month for everyone? Like, our cost of living is so much higher here than in other places. And I'm just like, look, $1,000 a month. Like, it's fair, everyone understands it. Like, if you want, you could move someplace less expensive. Just because you live in a high-cost area, there are other reasons why you're doing that. You know, it's like it's not up to me to like try and make it. The other thing is it's totally impractical to somehow tie it to where you live because there'd be like a lot of games playing going on. So $1,000 a month is a much more powerful way for Iowans to be able to afford housing than it might be in other parts of the country.
Hi, my name is Michael. Me and my family came here from Morrison, and I wanted to ask, do you have any plans on improving school lunches?
It's a great question. So one of the things, it's Michael, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things I've heard in rural communities around the country is that if your population shrinks, then a smaller number of households have to pay to afford the school. And so then the school budget goes down, and then I presume the lunches probably get a little bit less tasty, too. And so what we have to do is we have to put money into the hands of the people, the homeowners in those communities, and then make it so that the tax base is strengthened. So that if you're in school there, then they're not cutting corners on things like your tater tots.
Michael, I want to talk to you about the 4th District a little bit. So we're the second most agriculture producing district in America. And yet we only have 2 farm-to-table restaurants in the entire district. And so we grow all these things and we export. And what we need to do, in getting back to the monopoly question, which is different in technology than it is in agriculture. In agriculture, we absolutely have to enforce our antitrust. And what we need to do is like the beer industry, and you're a little young for that, but that's all right. So when I was your age, there was Bud, there was Miller, and there was Coors. And when we changed the policies, and now there's craft brews all over the state of Iowa and all over the United States. We need to do the same thing with agriculture, and then we can partner our pork producers with the local school, and our local farmers with the local schools, and that's a solution to your problem.
Yes, good news. Farmers in the school lunches, I love it.
Thank you. It's my honor to ask you questions, Ms. Yang. And I am Chinese student studying in the Drake University. And I am curious about how do you think of the trade war between China and the US, and what would you do if you become the president? Thank you.
I think there are many farmers here in Iowa who feel stabbed in the back by the trade war. In many cases they supported Donald Trump, and then they said, I can't believe now these tariffs are making it much harder for me to sell my goods and maintain relationships abroad. There are real problems and imbalances in the U.S.-China trade relationship, particularly their theft of intellectual property. But the trade war to me was the wrong approach, because the trade war ended up causing problems on both sides of the border, causing the zero-sum game, where really neither American farmers or businessmen are winning, or people on the other side. And as someone who's run a business, I would be furious if I had made investments and planned months or years in advance, and then you change the prices on me. Or I talked to a farmer yesterday who spent years building up a relationship, and now that relationship is gone, and he's like, I'm not sure where I'm going to get it back. And it took me 6 years to build that relationship. I would be furious. And so I am not the type that would change the rules on people that have been trying to make their farms or businesses more successful or internationally competitive. And if I were to try and do something like a tariff, I would literally give people like 3 years notice so that you don't have the rug pulled out from under you and that everyone can make adequate plans. But that would not be something I would be for in most any circumstance, because And there are other ways, in my opinion, to address the imbalances. I will say that many Americans have problems with our current trade relationships because they feel like we're getting a raw deal. And in some cases we are. And the goal has to be that to the extent that America's winning from trade, that Americans actually feel like we're participating in those winnings. And it's not just that a few companies are getting rich while Americans are losing on the other end.
Hello, thank you for taking our questions. Do you think it's beneficial to give the dividend, the freedom dividend, to people over a certain income, such as millionaires and billionaires, since they're not going to spend that money?
So this is the fun part. Let's use Jeff Bezos as an example. This is literally one of the richest Americans. He's worth 160 billion. I think it's down to 80 billion. It's still a lot of money. So we're going to extract billions of dollars from Jeff because he's the biggest shareholder of this $1 trillion tech company that we're then going to be extracting tens, hundreds of billions. We're going to be getting billions of dollars from Jeff. So then if we send him $1,000 a month just to remind him he's an American, it's fine. You know what I mean? But there are real values to universalizing it. And Alaska proved this. So number one is you destigmatize it. It's not like some people get it, other people don't. Number two, it's not seen as a rich to poor transfer. It's not like I'm giving it to you, you're getting it from me. Number three, you get rid of any incentives to somehow underreport your income or to have to monitor people. You just don't care. You're like, you're an American, you're a citizen, here's $1,000. And this is why it's so universally popular in Alaska. Because they're not means testing it there. They're just like, you're an Alaskan, here's your $2,000. And that's one reason why it's been so successful and stood the test of time for almost 40 years through many, many different administrations. Is that if someone else is getting it, then it's easier to attack it. But if we're all getting it, it's very, very hard to attack.
So in my case, I've been working in call centers for the past decade, more because entry-level used to pay and really couldn't get anything else. My main question is actually more tied to the Medicare for All issue, though, since part of what I was working for was the Medicare and health insurance marketplace call centers. I've had countless calls from people who, okay, even with basic Medicare as is, you still have the issue of it covers 80%, but then the remaining 20% you're stuck with. So even taking a past bill I've had to deal with, the base price on it was $138,000. Even with the base 80% cover, I'd still be looking at about $25 grand, and I'd still be paying that off. And okay, you could get another plan to cover the remaining 20%, but that's still another $500+ a month usually. So even taking into account that and the list of exclusions a lot of plans will have, what's your plan for trying to make it so that even going for Medicare for All, making it so that the bill still doesn't pretty much financially ruin someone if they get caught in that kind of accident or some kind of situation like cancer or anything else that's going to just leave them hospitalized for who knows how long.
Thank you. It's a great question. My parents retired to another country a number of years ago. They bounced back and forth because I have I have kids. They want to visit their grandkids, so you're a lot too. But when they went into the hospital in Asia, they were blown away by how fast and easy and inexpensive it was. They were literally just like, what? Like, is that it? And then they just gave them like a $50 copay for significant procedures too. And then they came back to this country and they're like, what is going on in the American healthcare system? We've essentially been shell-shocked by our own system for so long, where if you say something like it cost $58,000 to do something, we all know those horror stories all too well. There are a lot of costs that are baked into our system that are not real. And you know this because a lot of the hospital pricing, it's all over the map. The same thing can cost something totally different in one county versus another, it can cost something totally different from one patient to another in the same hospital. There's a lot of fabrication going on and a lot of sticker shock. And when you dig in, you find that the true costs of a lot of this stuff are much lower than we're paying. And there's no clearer example of that than prescription drugs. Where if you look at the prescription drugs, again, the prices are like completely arbitrary and all over the map. So one of the things I proposed, which, like, one, Medicare has to be able to negotiate drug prices. That would bring the cost down for Americans. Two, we should say to all the drug companies, we need to be paying no more than the average of what you're charging in other countries. Because they're in the habit of gouging us relative to other countries. Because the other countries are too smart to pay extortionate rates, but we're not smart enough. So they're like, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna like charge everyone else like stuff where we can make money normally, and then Americans is up here. So there are ways we can get the cost down. I'm confident of it in large part because other countries have done at least some versions of it, and I've looked at the numbers. I have a friend who's an investor in that space, and she tells me that she has never seen profiteering at this scale in her entire career. She's like, looks at some of the drug companies, the device companies, and the service providers, and it's like, their numbers make no sense. And she said that they make so little sense that she's now shorting those companies or betting against them. And then she supported my campaign for president so I can clean it up. And that's what I'm gonna do. And there's like zero lobbyist money in this campaign. It's all $19 donations from people like you. I'm my own man. I'm going to do what's right for the American people. And that means like trying to rip out some of these costs in the healthcare system. That would give me delight.
For pictures.
Thank you, Iowa. The selfie pledge. Let's do it.
This is the selfie line. The selfie line to take a photo with Andrew Yang. So yeah, it goes around the stage and up the stage. Crazy.